Hey, Travis here, Exercise Lab, with another short for you guys today. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy for those who don't know me, and just kind of lending my 2 cents on how fun exercise should be. You know, a lot of articles out there on exercise being fun, a lot of people talking about exercise being fun, ways to make it more fun, enjoyable, etc. And my 2 cents is, yeah, that's great if exercise is always going to be fun for you. One thing we know about exercise is you have to employ what we call progressive overload, meaning to make the adaptations you want, to get stronger, to get more endurance, to get that higher VO2 max. You do have to progressively nudge your system along. Exercise is a stress. And basically, once it hits that threshold, our body will adapt to make those changes we want. But if it stays below that threshold, we're not going to really make those adaptations we're looking for, where you keep getting more fitness effectively. And so to do that, you have to nudge your system along. And that means being consistent. That means coming back to it on days where maybe you don't feel so good, maybe days where, you woke up too early that day, had a crappy night of sleep. Maybe, you didn't, get your nutrition dialed in as much as you want to. Maybe it's too cold that morning. And, those excuses are always going to be plentiful, and there's no shortage of them. And if you go fishing for an excuse, you're going to find one. But really, you have to be able to come back to the gym. And, sometimes I'm looking down, a hard set I got coming up, another mile I have to run. And, it's not always easy. And, for someone who's pretty self-motivated, sometimes I still have to dig, and sometimes it's a grind. And, I don't feel like there's enough of that out there that, yeah, it's great if it's fun overall, if you enjoy it, there's novelty and all those things, but sometimes you just kind of keep your nose to the grindstone, as you say, and you got to just keep coming back to it. Maybe it's not always fun, to do that last set and to grind that out. But the fun part is, well, I'm not necessarily that guy that didn't do that, right? That guy or girl that didn't do that. I'm not necessarily the one who opted out. And I think there's a funness in that, and a funness in knowing that, hey, I'm really trying to work towards being at my best and, sort of, getting my fitness to my peak to the degree I can. And obviously, if you're doing that at the expense of your emotional health and other things, yeah, that could be problematic. But, within reason, of course, as long as you can keep things dialed in on the exercise front, and sometimes that is going to be a grind, I think you're going to service yourself in the long run, in that longevity bucket that we're all talking about these days. How are you going to continue to perform well over the decades? Well, the more reserve you have going into those decades, the better you're going to be able to withstand the storms that are going to come your way, as I've spoken to on this channel. And, for some people, that could mean lacing up on the track, you want to be at your best, but other people could just mean, getting ready to get out of the hospital. If you're not performing at your best, if you don't have a good reserve going into some medical complexities, sometimes you're not going to make your way out of them, despite the best that modern medicine has to offer. And so, I kind of like to say tongue in cheek at the end of my videos, I hope you have some fun, sort of talking more big picture, but no, those workouts are not always going to be fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video for today. Please subscribe and like if you guys like this stuff. More good content in the pipeline. And as always, I hope you guys have some fun.